Oh, yeah. Can you dig it? Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's Untethered Live on a Friday night. I'm your host, Jake Johnson, barely voiced, and I'm here. So are you. What's happening? Welcome to the show. Come on in, take your shoes off. It's going to be fun tonight. Dolphins pretend that they're innocent, but they're doing it on purpose. On purpose. They're doing it on purpose. Amy's first in chat. She says, evening to y'all. Hello. How are you? Aaron says, what's up, Dimples? Dimples down in Temples. She's got the law looking for you. Amy says, Aaron, I'm working. Kind of busy. How are you? Well, how about that? Aaron says, I'm okay. Yeah. Fantastic. That's what we're looking for, Aaron. Fantastic. It's wonderful. Nothing could be better. Yes. Amy says day 15 of a 13-day stretch. Sorry, day 5 of a 13-day stretch. Well, you got a ways to go. You're a quarter of the way there. Keep plugging. Amanda says, Amy, here's your gold star. You get the gold star for being first in chat. How's it feel? How's it feel being first in chat? Wonderful. Feels good to me. Aaron says, but no more broke, right? Always a good thing. Always a good thing. I'm not broke for the first time in 2.5 years. Yeah, 2.5 years. Something like that. I got money in my pocket. Not much, but it's there. I can feel it. I finally got through with the land taxes and got caught up on everything. I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm in the green, but I'm definitely not in the black anymore. I'm like right there on the edge. I like it like that. Living dangerously. Living on the edge. Amanda says.
Hi, Amy. Hello, Aaron.
Amy says, like, shared, and invited some friends. Always wonderful to hear that. Thank you very much. Amy's been watching some of my previous episodes, and she's like, I understand why you wait until the end of the show to do questions and answers. Kind of weird. It was a learning experience getting started. Had to come a long way over a short period of time. Having never, hosted a show before. Had to figure out all the variables. Takes time. You got to grow into it. And sometimes it's comfortable and sometimes it's awkward. But it's always fun. Fun till your daddy takes a T-bird away. Aaron says hi. What's up, buddy? Kevin Bernard's here. Hey, buddy. Nice to see you. Kevin says, hello, Jake, Amanda, and everyone. Nice to see you, buddy. How are you?
Hi, Kevin.
Amy says, almost, Aaron. It's always darkest before the dawn. True. There's always calm before the storm. And it's always the most fun before it gets violent. And several other tropes. 2 birds in a bush, something. I don't know. Amy says, hi, Amanda, Kevin, and Jake. Debbie's here. She says, hello, everybody. Hi, Debbie. I got my nice hot cup of coffee. Do you have yours? If you want to have a cup of coffee with me, go to the kitchen, pour yourself up a nice hot cup. Let's sit down and talk about something. If you don't have a cup, though, you can get one in the description below. I recommend the first one. It has my face on it, and it is fantastic. But we also have stainless steel tumblers down there with locking lids, the big ones and little ones. They have Untethered Live Bible Study logo on the front. They are nice. I'm working on some other stuff. It'll take a little while to get it out, but it's coming. But you can get one of those, but also like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chats are available in the chat box. If you want to show a little bit of love, if you want to, you can do that right there or hit that Cash App, $JakeJohnsonband. I do appreciate that very much. One last thing. If you would like a place to hang out, a place to call your own, a place where you can share pictures, text, videos, chats, and memes, you can do that over at our new Facebook page, facebook.com/UntetheredLive chillin'. The link is in the chat. I can't talk, but you can read it. And go check it out. It's a great place. The ladies are killing it with the memes. They're funny. Go check it out. It's awesome. And now back to the show.
Hi, Untethered Live family. Good to see you all. Happy Friday. I hope everyone had a good week. Hiya, Jake. How are you tonight, love?
Fantastic. I couldn't complain if I wanted to. I wouldn't want to, but if I wanted to, I couldn't do it. I can't talk, so complaining would be out of the question. But I like the hearts and the enthusiasm. I'm into it. Amanda says,
Hi, Debbie.
it's a work in progress. Amy says, hi, Debbie. No pants. Yes. Who's with me? No pants. This is the no pants zone. We are a no pants club. Pants not included. No shoot, no shirt, no service, no pants. You're
Service.
welcome. You can have it. You can have it all. Come on in. I'm working on it. I'll come up with something that's funny. Aaron says, or dawn before dark, LOL. According to the Bible, that's the way it works. Kevin says, hello, Amy. Amy says, there's a huge event at the school this weekend. Over 1,000 guests. I'm working 20 hours overtime in 2 days. Nice. That paycheck's going to look sweet. I got to work tomorrow, and I don't get paid until Monday for it. Kevin says, hello, Aaron. Batshit Crazy's here. What's up, Batshit? Nice to see you, my friend. He says, what's up? And all kinds of hieroglyphics in his usual cartoony way. Kevin says, hello, Debbie. Amy says, hi, Bats. Aaron says, hello, Sir Kevin. Nice to see you. Kevin says, hello, Batshit.
Hi, Bat.
Come on, loosen up, boys. Gimme some vocals. Aaron says, back dimples. Back dimples? Back dimples. Oh, back dimples. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. That shit crazy says, first time, me being early. Me being early. We've been early before. Steely Dan. Nice. I like Steely Dan. Good group of musicians. Amy says, I saw you on a different live stream the other day, Bats. I said hi. I don't know if you saw me. Aaron says, I think I'm going to watch something funny. I watched something funny last night, and I can recommend it to you wholeheartedly. The new Naked Gun movie is good. It's not great, but it is good, and it's not woke. It's an actual movie that's funny. You'll laugh a few times. You'll enjoy the show. You'll see where it came from, and you'll know that they're doing some new stuff. They don't just repeat the old stuff. It's a good movie. Also, the new Superman movie's pretty good, too. I enjoyed it. I was expecting to not enjoy it. I've heard a lot of bad things about that movie. I didn't see any of it when I watched it. It wasn't great. I mean, it was kind of, It's a Superman movie. It wasn't like spellbinding or groundbreaking, but it was a solid Superman movie, and you'll enjoy it. But if you want funny, do the new Naked Gun movie. It's in theaters now. Aaron says, or a scary movie and ease my mind. If a scary movie eases your mind, I hate to know what's going on. Amy says, stop watching Debbie, Aaron. Damn. Amy says, I posted a meme that's relevant to the show description. Did you? Nice. I'll have to see it after the show because I can't get to the Facebook right now, but I'll check it out. Aaron says, Debbie did say see moons in Dallas. They had a whole movie about that. They did. A whole series of movies about it. And Debbie says, yeah, start watching Amy. Scary movie. And Aaron says, you're not catching me in that trap.
He's watching both of them.
Amy says, unicorns and narwhals were playing poker. The unicorn lost. That's how narwhals got their horns. I can see that happen. They're doing it on purpose. They're not as innocent as they look. Amy says, because unicorns became horses. Oh, and unicorns became. Yeah, I could see that too. I was thinking about that, about dragons, and like the modern day dragons, the Lord of the Rings, and the whatever the other show is, House of Dragons or whatever it was. I can't think of it to save my life now. Game of Thrones. That's it. Those dragons. Those are romanticized dragons. It started in about the 1700s. When you go back and look at art back in history, I did a hyperbole about it. You can go check it out. I think it's episode 5 or 6. Anyway, it's pretty good, and it covers dragons. But the dragons that we know of today, with the wings and the big giant bodies and the long tails and the spikes on the back and all that, fire-breathing, magical in nature, golden heart, that sort of thing, those are romanticized dragons. If you want to see a real dragon, you need to go to a museum for that and look specifically for T-Rex, things with big teeth. You'll see dragons. And also unicorns and griffins and things like that. If you look at the picture of a griffin, which is a romanticized being, you'll see a lion with a bird's beak and wings, but like a I don't know, a dog's tail or something like that. There's like 3 or 4 animals mixed together. But then go look at the bones of a protoceratops. Comes from the same region as the legends of the griffin, and they were known to be nuisance. They would terrorize people. They were vicious little animals. They're about the size of a dog, a little bigger than a dog, and it has a beak, and it looks like what you would think a real griffin would look like. There you go. That's what a griffin is. Also, unicorns. Unicorns are romanticized. They are, of course, mentioned in the Bible, so are dragons and griffins also. These are real animals that did exist at some point, may still exist in some places, and they've been romanticized over the years. Now think about what else in the world may be romanticized, like angels or anything in the Greek pantheon of the mythology, or Norse mythology, or Aztec mythology. Quetzalcoatl was a dragon, by the way. If you know what I'm talking about, if you know what that word is. A wyvern is a dragon. That's Irish mythology. So there's many things many things in the world that have been romanticized over the years and turned into other things. Things that are no longer believable. Things that look a little too mythological to be real. But they were real. They just didn't quite look the way they look now. Imagine what'll be romanticized in another 1,000 years from today, like an electric vehicle or a rocket ship to the moon. Imagine taking that information and then running with it. What your imagination might do with that idea. What you might add to it over the years. And that's how we get legends, such as Dracula or vampires in general, which were a very real thing in Transylvania, in that area. And turns out there's a disease that fits the description of vampire pretty good. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a blood disease. Makes you crave blood because you have a lack of iron in your body. And if you've ever been pregnant, you know what a craving is. And that's how it works. Your body missing something, you start craving it. Simple. Also, in a strong aversion to sunlight, it'll actually burn the skin, turn you purple, much like when you take antibiotics and go into the sun. And the reason that happens is because it changes the chemical makeup of your blood, and it makes your skin allergic to the sun. Same thing this disease does. So everything in the world that exists came from a kernel of truth. Everything, every story you've ever heard came from a kernel of truth. You just have to know how to look for it. And it's there. It's all there. Everything that we think of today as fantasy once existed in reality, such as a wizard. Wizards are mentioned in the Bible, by the way. They're called soothsayers. And that's what they did. And they're also called magi. There's another group of lesser, like Merlin was a magi. And like Dee, the head man for the Queen of Elizabeth, was a soothsayer. John Dee was his name. You can look him up. Or Rasputin was a soothsayer. There you go. I don't know where I'm getting at, just that the world is comprised of things that did exist, and now we have memory of those things, and we romanticize them into fairy tales. Aaron says, I'll just sit over here minding my own business. You're good, Aaron. Amy says, oh, Aaron, you're a part of the chat. Don't beat yourself up.
That's no fun, Aaron.
Amy says, tap that like button and share icon and the super chat button too. Yeah, I like that one. That's my favorite one. Debbie says, Amy, I thought minding his business meant he was beating off. Beating himself. Are we talking about the same thing? Amy says, Cash App, $JakeJohnsonBand, or PayPal /me.JakeJohnsonBand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, my chat jumped. Where'd you go?
8:43.
There we are. Amy says, LOL, Debbie. And Aaron says, who, me? Amy says, I found pickles in the trash. Anyone want them? They're slightly used. Gross. You might make a sandwich out of them. Aaron says, LOL, Debbie is naughty.
You, Amy.
Debbie says, I'm a pass on that, Amy. I like mine fresh. Aaron says, limp pickle. Gross. Amy says, Komodo dragons, Gila monsters, or Gila monsters, are modern day dragons. Yep, probably. Yep. I think they were a little bigger in the old days. But those are the ones that still exist. Also, crocodiles are very ancient and probably fits that description. In fact, if you look at some of the descriptions of dragons, like such as Alexander the Great wrote about when he conquered a dragon, and you look at the artwork that accompanies that legend, it looks very much crocodilian. It's very low to the ground, short legs, Very long, tail like a crocodile, head like a crocodile. It's a crocodile, as far as I can tell. Well, it might just be a skinny dragon. I don't know. A short, like a midget dragon. Could be. But I'm guessing it was some type of lizard.
Bearded dragons.
Bearded dragons. Isn't that a fish?
No, it's a dragon. It's a reptile.
Maybe.
It's a lizard.
A lizard. Amanda says,
This is a no limp pickle zone. No limp pickles are allowed. None.
Aaron says, I'm a dragon. My type name is Dragon Ass. I'm a dragon. My type of name is Dragon Ass. I have drug ass before my time, too. John's here. What's up, John? John says, hi, everybody. There is one dragon still around, a bearded dragon. I think Amanda just said that.
Hi, Nugget.
And yes, some of those might still be around. I think some of the older ones might still be around in the Congo areas, upper part of Africa that's very, very slightly discovered. There's a lot of places there we've never been. And I want to tell you something, and I know people say this a lot and it gets lost. For some reason, people just look over it. But this is a true statement. We know more about the surface of Mars than we know about what's under 1 foot of the ocean out in the middle of it. We don't know anything about the middle of the ocean. Nothing at all. It's unexplored. There's a whole world out there we've never seen. I think we've studied like 1% of the ocean. And people live in our little bubbles, and we live in modern society, and it's really easy to forget. We haven't actually traversed the whole planet. There may be islands that we don't know about yet. You know, we haven't discovered the whole thing. I mean, it's a good bet we could see it from satellites or whatever, but there's a lot of ocean we haven't covered. Could be out there. You never know. Amanda says, hi, Nugget. Amy says, Peter Griffin. I can't do the voice.
LOL, Aaron.
Amy says, hi, Nugget. John says, hello, John. Kevin says, hello, John. Amy says, LOL, Aaron. Aaron says, hopefully I'll be romanticized. All right, well, don't we all want that? I hope I'll just be remembered, let alone romanticized. Maybe they'll think of me as a famous guy in the future. Maybe 10 minutes after I'm dead, nobody will ever speak my name again. I don't know.
I'm going to make a mold of you.
That'd be nice. Make sure it's hard.
Well, yeah.
The mold, pervert. Patty's here. She says, how is everyone? It's Patty. We know. How are you, Patty? Nice to see you. Amy says, vampires also come from Vlad the Impaler. Well, Dracula comes from Vlad the Impaler. Vampires are a different thing. Vampire is different than Nosferatu. It's a different thing, but they get mixed together in folklore. Nosferatu actually comes from an island legend, which is loosely based on information from another legend. So Vlad the Impaler is where we get Dracul, or the dragon. That's what Dracula means, the dragon. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but that's where the name comes from. And we get that mostly from Bram Stoker's novel. But that was based on information that he collected at the time about Vlad the Impaler, who would impale people on spikes and hang them outside of his village and then set a table up in the midst of them and have dinner so that everybody could watch him eating and amongst all the dead bodies. He was quite the freak, but very effective. I mean, he took over a country without killing a single individual, except for the guys on the spikes. Kevin says, hello, Patty. Amy says, hi, Patty.
That explains a lot. Cravings. So when your body needs it, you crave it more. That's good info to know.
That's a fact. That is a fact. And it will crave weird things like dirt or pickles and peanut butter or motor oil or something like that. Or cotton. Believe it or not, there are minerals and things like dirt and weeds and different things out in the world. And your body knows it. You don't have to know it intellectually, but your body does. Your sense knows it. And if your body is lacking it, you will crave it. Even if it doesn't make any sense. Like putting pennies in your mouth. Some people do that. There's a whole disorder. People that eat things that they're not supposed to eat because their body's missing some stuff.
Yeah, it's called pica.
That's the one. Patty says, hi, Mr. Kevin and Miss Amy Elizabeth.
Hi, Patty.
John says, and the Loch Ness Monster was a myth. Well, yes, that's true. There are those, like Bigfoot. Patty says, hello, Miss Amanda. And Kevin says, John, I saw the Loch Ness Monster being ridden by Bigfoot 2 times. Right? And Debbie says, Nessie, say it isn't so, John. Well, again, there is a such thing as little towns that desperately need tourist dollars. And they come up with some pretty ballsy stuff to get those tourist dollars. Some whole industries are built on that idea. And unfortunately, and usually in the South, there are a lot of people that just don't see that and just really want to believe stuff. And no matter how ridiculous it might be. John H. says, Kevin, smiley face. And Patty says, hi, John, smiley. Amy says, Kevin, are you feeling okay? Yeah, Kevin, are you feeling all right? Fab Daddy's here. Fab Daddy says, hi, everyone, including you, Jake. Hi, Fab Daddy. How are you? Nice to see you. Amy says, hello, Fab.
Hi, Fab.
Amy says, there's an alien base under the ocean. Could be. Could be. Most likely it's American operated, but whatever. Fab Daddy says, it's not the size of the ocean, but the motion of the ocean that matters. Yeah. Aaron says, I'm glad mermaids are not real. They would just exploit them. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. There are some cave paintings that would disagree with you. And an entire religion based around worshiping a fish man named Moloch. And a couple of other ones, too. So in certain parts of the world, the idea of what we would call a mermaid is a very real prospect. I'm not sure how far back that goes, but it goes back a long way. And we're talking like pre-flood, a long way. So there's some religions based around fish people that go back before the flood that have some validity, and at least one of them is mentioned in the Bible. So I don't know how real that is or what you're looking for in the word real, but they do exist. Or did. Patty says, well, what are we going to do to find out what is in the middle of the ocean? I don't know. Hope there's more James Camerons in the world. It seems to be a money thing. Aaron says, I'll remember you, Jake. Thank you. I need somebody to remember me. Kevin says, hello, Fab Daddy. Amy says, modern day fairies are something completely different than what they used to be, too. And those modern day ones are very real. I've seen them with my own eyes. Even had pixie dust. I think we call it glitter, but whatever. Debbie says, I will romanticize the ninnies. How dare you? I'll take it. Aaron says, they both wear wings and glitter. Right. Amanda says,
Debbie, I saw the perfect prop today. It was a small top hat. I told Jake it would be perfect picture prop. I was thinking of you, Debbie.
I think she just wants to see me naked holding that little top hat over my yin yang. Debbie says, that movie Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, was sad. I felt bad for him. I don't know if I've seen that one. Maybe I have. Amy says, I used to crave tomatoes when I was pregnant. You probably needed something acidic. A lot of acid in tomatoes. John says, my ex craved coal and custard together. If you'll look at what's in coal, you'll find out that the body needs a certain amount of that. I don't know about the custard, but maybe because it tastes good. Kevin says, coal? Oh, I've heard some weird stuff that pregnant women have craved. Weird stuff. Stuff you wouldn't believe. Patty says, what state do you lay your hat on in, Mr. Fab Daddy?
I think I'm supposed to be down in, Mr. Fab Daddy.
Yeah, where do you live, Fab Daddy? What state? Amanda says,
yeah, Amy, my craving went right over Jake's head.
no, it didn't. Debbie says, Jake is in a top and nothing else works for me. Amy says, LOL, Debbie. And Debbie says, oops, top hat. I got excited typing. Well, it can be arranged. And I have no shame, so there's that.
LOL, right, Debbie. I was thinking that.
Top hat and a tank top, says Amy. I don't do tank tops very well. My shoulders are uneven. But I'll do it. Amanda says,
just a top hat? LOL.
Just a tip in the top hat. Patty says, Mr. Fab Daddy, are you across the big pond as well? I don't think so. I think he's here. I think he's in California. Debbie says, will Jake do the full Monty with a top hat? Asking for Amy. He could be persuaded to, yes. Amy says, alien base under the ocean ran by Bigfoot. I like it. There's a good one.
I wonder if Jake can helicopter the top hat.
That would be dangerous.
For who?
Anybody that was standing near the top hat.
Oh, well, I'm going to prop up and watch.
Kevin says, I thought this show was G-rated. Yeah, it wouldn't be on the show. It is G-rated. We can talk about dirty things, though. We just can't show them. And we can't be explicit. But dirty things are very real, much like dragons. You know what I'm saying? Debbie says, I bet he could, Amanda, with enough practice. I'm pretty good at the helicopter.
Depends on what night, Kevin.
Aaron says, your chat's about to jump and leave you confused. It does.
908.
908. They jumped the wrong direction. Aaron says, get in my kayak looking for mermaids with ninnies. Yeah, I think it's the other way, actually. Every picture I've ever seen of one, except for a cave painting that I saw, but every, like, rock art or carving of a fish person, they had legs, and the top half was fish. It's kind of weird, but I think the ones with boobies are the romanticized mermaids. I think they were probably male. I don't know though. My thought on things like that, like the Egypt paintings and carvings of the multi-animal creatures, like with a dog's body and an alligator head, and my guess is they were experimenting with things like that because they had fallen angels in those days. And as you know, your spirit was created for your body. Let us make man in our image means God made Jesus in his image. He made you in your image. He made me in my image. So your body fits your soul. And to my knowledge, your soul cannot go in any other body. I don't know that for certain, but that's my guess. But an angel has no such restrictions. They are celestial from the beginning. They are nothing but spiritual beings. So, when they are dead, or their offspring are dead, their spirits can go into anybody, including one that was made. All it needs to have is a head, legs, arms, and a torso. So my guess is they were playing with things like that in those days. Very much akin to our messing with DNA and CRISPR and all of that kind of stuff today. Messing with chimeras and things like that. A chimera is a blending of two different types of animals. But that's just a theory. I have no proof of that. Debbie says, Kevin, that is what you get for thinking.
Me too, Debbie. I'll sit back and laugh while he learns.
Kevin says, Debbie, yeah, I got to stop that thinking stuff. It gets me in trouble. It gets us all in trouble, Kevin. God doesn't like vain imaginations, and there's a reason for that, because we tend to get in trouble with those vain imaginations. God gave us a beautiful mind, and we are allowed to use it, but we are to restrict it and to hold it down, because it can get us into a lot of trouble. You got to master the flesh. That's the whole point of being here. Like a ultimate make you humble thing. John says a bunch of times. Peeking though. He's peeking. Patty says it needs to probably seat more than 4 going down so far into the ocean. A vessel? Like the James Cameron type? Yeah, I agree. You're thinking of the type that exploded under the ocean when it went down to the Titanic. That's not a good type of submarine. That submarine was invented by a teenager. It didn't even have a tangible steering wheel. It was driven by a remote control that you could buy at Walmart for $20. That's not the submarine I want to go in. It did not have a handle on the door. It did not have physical rods that controlled the propulsion. It was done by servo motors, remote control. Not a smart person that built that thing. If you're in an environment such as under a pressurized situation, you'll want redundancies. You want physical operated things where you can reach down and grab a lever and pull it and make something happen. That's what you want. You don't want remote control with no redundancy, which is why they died. If you're wondering what I'm talking about the submarine that imploded a year or so ago. That's all the news. Like 6 people died out of sheer stupidity. Debbie says Vlad the Impaler became Dracula because his whole family was murdered. In the movie? Yeah. That's not why he became Dracula in the reality. No, he was a very vicious dictator. But he ran his country good, and all the people that lived in his country loved him because he kept them safe and didn't tax the bejesus out of them. But everybody around him was terrified of him because he would do things like I described earlier. Fab Daddy says, I live in California. I'm watching from TV and practicing the guitar, which is a great place to be, Fab Daddy. You keep practicing. Aaron says, the Kraken is real. Yes, I am. I mean, it is. Amy says, practicing for Julia? That's an old joke. Burn. Deep burn. Amanda says, very real, Aaron. Sorry. Amanda says?
Very real, Aaron.
Aaron says, me too, me too. Aaron says, for me too, Amanda, I have a Kraken inside. You got to. You gotta work on your wit. You gotta be sharp. Because there's a lot of people out there that like running their mouths. And people like us are the only defense against those people. Amy says, release the Kraken. Nobody's pissing me off tonight. So.
Me too, Aaron.
Yeah, Anubis is who you're talking about, Aaron. The jackal head on the man's body. That's called Anubis. And Anubis was a very real person to the Egyptian people. I don't know if he was wearing a mask or if he actually had a jackal's head. I don't know. That's a question I have about the Egyptians. I don't know what they were doing back then, but they were definitely... There's a lot of them that look like men wearing masks, but there are some that are clearly not that, like a dog with an alligator head and a lion tail. That's definitely a chimera. Can't fake that. Dog ain't gonna wear a mask. And the Sphinx, that's different too. Which, by the way, all Sphinxes have the Anubis head, except for the one in front of the pyramids. And I think that was done later. I think originally it had the Sphinx's head and it got broken during a war. So they fixed it by putting the Pharaoh's face on it. Which is why it's out of proportion. A little tiny head on a big lion body. Aaron says, Amy, are you trying to see my Kraken? Patty says, okay, that's exactly what I do. Practice my guitar on TV, but in Orange County, Tennessee. Thanks, Mr. Fab Daddy. Not noisy. Not nosy, just don't get out much. And this is all very cool to me. Well, we would love to hear you play, Patty. If you can make a video or audio recording, we'd love to hear it. Amy says in India they worship all kinds of strange beings. Yes, they have their own mythology and pantheon of gods, and some of those are based in reality too. But I don't know to what degree because I don't study the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas. I don't study them as much as I do the Bible. I've read through them, but that's like on the back burner. The Bible is a lifetime of stuff to study, so I've laid some of those. Even though I've looked at them, I haven't really gone deep into them yet. And also, what do you call those? The Mayan writings. I can't remember the name of that book, but you know the one. The Porpoise, I think is what it's called. Porpoise. Well, that sounds right. Yeah, that book. My brain isn't kicked in yet, and I'm still waking up from a nap. I was asleep 5 minutes before the show, so I'm a little bit hazy. I'm getting there, though. But yeah, India is a very interesting country with very interesting folklore that go back thousands of years. They're the oldest group of people other than the Chinese that I'm aware of. And Patty says, thank you for answering, Fab Daddy. Aaron says, like cows. Well, they kind of think of cows as sacred. I don't know if they worship them, but they definitely don't eat hamburgers. And I think that's a holdover from Egyptian teachings anyway, because they did worship bulls in ancient Egypt. And in other cultures too, like in Crete off of Santorini. That's a Greek area off of Helena, which is Greece, what we would call Greece. Amy says, one-eyed calves born with defects and a lady with 6 arms, half lion, half human type stuff, Aaron. Yep. Or the lady with the many arms, multi-armed. Lady with 6 arms. Her name is Shiva, the Destroyer. I have to think about these things. Patty says, that was exactly what vehicle I was talking about, Jake. See? I'm working on it. Amy says, one of the royals liked to bathe in blood. Catherine or Elizabeth. Yeah, that was a different place. That wasn't India. That was down in, where's the place that we call Bohemia? John, do you know the answer to that? Bohemian. It's a Bohemian story. And her name was Catherine. And she was a very wicked woman who thought that bathing in virgin's blood kept her young. And apparently she had enough evidence to think that she was doing it for quite a few years. They ended up arresting her and building a tower and putting her in it and then walling off the door so she could never leave. And she died in that tower because of her evilness. She was like taking 10 virgins a week from the town or something like that. I don't remember the numbers now, but a lot. She was killing a lot of people and bathing in their blood. Very wicked woman. There's a Bohemian story, wherever that is. Aaron says, Amy, that's some crazy stuff. Oh, yeah. The further you look, the worse it gets, too. There's things out there that you would not believe that we think in today's time. There are things happening today that you would not believe, that you would think, well, that's ancient legends, right? No, they're doing it today. Like spirit cooking, for example. They do that in Washington today. Hillary Clinton was caught up in a scandal with spirit cooking, which is a satanic ritual to bring evil spirits and inhabit human bodies. It involves period blood and semen and piss and a few other things. And they were doing it in the open. And a matter of fact, and they said it on live TV in the 90s, Bill Clinton was having a press conference, and he said that Hillary was talking to Eleanor Roosevelt in the White House during a seance. And she got some information, And that's what he's now acting on. And that was on national television. I saw it when it happened. That's for real. And John says, what about the phoenix, Jake? The great bird that rises from the ashes of the old bird. Yes, I think that's more of a metaphor. But it's a Native American expression of being reborn, like the old dying and the new coming from the old, like becoming a new man or being born again. It's the same kind of story. It has the same motif. But we have romanticized that into the great phoenix, right? I don't know that they thought about it that way. I think they told it in story form. Surprisingly, the Indians, the Native American Indians specifically, are very Christian in nature in the way that they think. They talk about it in different terms, like they call the sky god or the star people or things like that. But they're talking about God and the angels and the Son of God and things like that. They just use different words. But they're very, very Christian in the way that they believe. You should check it out. Read some of the parallels. It's interesting because they supposedly had no contact with that part of the world at that time, and yet their religious beliefs are the same. And it is that way all over the world, actually. Much like they were building pyramids in Egypt and in South America and in China at the same time, even though they had never met each other, and they were building them to the same star constellations and in the same dimensions. Kind of weird. Debbie says, yep, that was the movie. That was in the movie. And he was a kind-hearted man till his family was murdered. And then he hunted evil. Yeah. Well, that was a movie. Don't get that mixed up with reality. The real Vlad the Impaler was the evil. He wasn't hunting evil. He was evil. Oh, then he turned evil. Sorry. Yeah, he was evil. Amanda says, message retracted. I can't read it if you retract it. Neither can you.
I know what it said.
What did it say?
The same thing the next sentence does a couple lines down.
Well, then, smartass, when we get there, read it then.
I will.
All right, then. Kevin says, I'm covering 2 podcasts right now, spreading myself thin. When you cheat on your wife, do you tell her? I'm just asking for a friend.
I have a son named Phoenix, spelt different, but pronounced Phoenix.
Yeah. It's spelt Phoenix, by the way, just so you know.
Yes, I know what it's spelled.
That O isn't there.
No, it's not.
But it is in the word Phoenix.
Yeah.
So you have a son named Phoenix that you call Phoenix.
If that's the way you want to say it, okay.
Spell it.
Phenix.
Phoenix. Is there another way to say that?
No.
No. Amy says, some people wear dog masks and walk around in pride events. Yes, and they probably did the like back then too, which is why it's a question. There are some depictions of Egyptians that look like they're wearing a mask or a headdress. But then again, there are some animals that don't. And you're like, well, that's clearly not something wearing a mask. What is that? You know. So I don't know what to make of that. But there seems to be a lot of that in antiquity, not just in Egypt. They're just the most prevalent. But if you look in other places, like the Dogon people, which interesting, the Dogon people are a tribe in Africa that were cut off from mankind for 200 years. And they were finally visited by missionaries that came to spread the gospel. And they already knew it. And the people were surprised that they knew it. And when they got to studying the Dogon people, Dogon, they realized that they were worshiping a binary star system in the Orion constellation called Sirius A and Sirius B, which sounds wild, but here's the really wild part. You can't see Sirius B with the naked eye. Nobody knew there was a Sirius B until the telescope was invented. This was several hundred years before the telescope was invented, and they knew about it and knew its relationship to Sirius A and knew where it was. So there's something there. And then there are other beings that worship the 5 stars, the Pleiades star system. That's very interesting too. If there are aliens, that's where they came from, because there's a lot of folklore involving Pleiades, and that's just not a thing that you know about. You have to know something to know about the Pleiades. That's in the Southern Cross, I believe. But yeah, there are people that dress as animals in ritualistic nature, and they have always been. So you have to think about that. What does that mean? What is the significance of it? Why do they do things like that? Why does it matter? And how does that fit into the religious studies of the world, which is what I do? I study the reality that we live in, because it's very clear to me that we live in a carefully crafted facade, and that everything we think is wrong, everything we think we know is wrong, and it's done that way on purpose. Dolphins are not innocent. They're that way on purpose. That was clever. It may take you a while to catch up, but that was clever.
I caught it.
John says, Amanda, there was a film called Flight of the Phoenix. Yes, it was a good movie, too. Aaron says, and furries, too. They dress up like animals and identify as them. Yeah, that's not a new thing. That's been going on for quite some time. We have modernized it, and it started with fandom. They started doing that at Comic-Con and things like that, and it just kind of grew from there. And mostly, I think adults just misunderstand the kids' intentions, but there are some freaks out there that get into it, like really into it, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the type of pup masks the gay men use that are into that crap, it's creepy. They wear collars and leather jackets or vests and all kind of creepy things.
Yeah, why do they do that?
It's a fetish.
Yeah, but of what? Being a dog? I don't think so.
Being treated like a dog.
Being submissive, I think, is the thing, and a dog is an example of submissiveness. It's allegorical behavior.
Lock them in dog crates and feed them out of dog bowls. It's weird.
And Amanda says?
And yes, Nugget. And yes, Aaron, diapers.
Gross. You would never catch me in a diaper. If I get to where I have to wear a diaper, I'm taking my brain out for a walk.
We're talking willingly wearing diapers.
Yep, I'm going to let the boys out for some fresh air, if that ever comes to down. Aaron says they actually have a gender for it in the furry people. Yeah, I'm not buying it. You're not going to convince me. I don't care what you do. I'm a very liberal-minded person, even though I'm a conservative staunchly. I am very liberal-minded. I'm non-judgmental. I don't care what you do. As long as you don't get any of it on me, I don't care. I don't, go let your freak flag fly. That's fine with me. However, when you start imposing that reality on me, where I have to change my way of thinking, now we have a problem. Now you're getting in my head, and you're not going to force me to think other than I think. I think the way I think. There's nothing wrong with the way I think. You're not going to change it because you want to. It's not going to happen. And I think there's a lot of people with me on that. Aaron says, hold up, diapers, WTF. Oh, yeah. There are full-on baby fetish people that want to suck the bottle and be changed and everything. Full-grown men, yes, and women. More men than women for some reason, but. Just look up the Eggman. Eggman. It's a John Waters film. It's in a John Waters film. But I warn you, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You might not want to go down that road.
Yes, they act like they're slaves in diapers.
Aaron says, I see a grown man in a diaper that is not disabled. He's getting smacked. They need it too. That's what's wrong with the world. I think that when you turn 18, you should have to show up at a building and stand in line and wait in line until you get up to the front, and then somebody ought to just punch you right in the nose as hard as they can and knock you out. I think that ought to be mandatory for everybody. Why? You don't know anything about yourself until you've been punched in the nose. All things go out the window when you've been punched in the nose. No matter what you think, no matter what you've planned, no matter what you've decided about yourself, when you get punched in the nose, you live in a different reality then. And I think that ought to be mandatory. Prove me wrong. Amanda says.
I don't know where I was at. Oh, hi, Linda.
Before that.
Oh, they wear bibs and suck on bottles and sleep in cribs and everything.
Oh, yeah. Linda Davis is here. She says, hi, y'all. I'm in chat. And Jake. Yes, I'm in chat also. How are you, Linda? Aaron says, act like a slave, get slave prizes. I agree, 100%. It's amazing to me that 17% of the population is trying to go the opposite direction away from slavery, and 5% of the population is trying to go towards it. That's amazing to me. I don't understand. But I guess you do you, boo, right? Amy says, hi, Linda.
Hi, Linda, hun.
Aaron says, they should be the Baker Act. They should be Baker acted. That's just mentally whacked. Yes, we closed down all the mental facilities quietly in the 90s. So much so that I didn't even know it happened. When I was a kid, I used to know people that spent time at, Palm View or whatever it was. And then they just stopped talking about it. And then one day I realized, paddy wagons aren't a thing anymore. They used to be a thing. If you make too much racket, somebody in a white van would show up and two dudes would come out and offer you a shirt. Had a little long sleeves, but it was a nice shirt. And they would get you out of there. You can't make too much racket in public like that. Now, you walk down the street talking to trees, no problem. I think we ought to bring back mental institutions. That ought to be the place where you get punched in the nose when you turn 18. I think we could kill two birds with one stone right there, Aaron. You might be onto something. John says, my ex was a Medusa. Oh, really? Medusa is a mythological creature with snakes for hair, and that if you looked at her, you would turn to stone. That is Greek mythology, by the way. And you can find that legend in the Odyssey or the Iliad, which are books that you probably will never read. But if you do, there's some pretty interesting things in there. And Homer, by the way, is the guy that wrote them. We assigned that name because we don't actually know who wrote those books. Homer is like a collection of authors that we don't know who they were. So we just put them under the Homer title. It was the guy that discovered it. So we don't actually know who wrote the Iliad, but it's been around for as long as the Bible has.
Yeah, Aaron, that's gross.
It is gross. Aaron says, well, I pray I don't see one. He's going to need that diaper.
LOL, Aaron.
Right. Amy says, metaphors are weird, but not as confusing as meta-fives. Yeah, those are strange. And you get that by putting two of them together. You get 4 of them. Amanda says,
LOL, Amy.
Aaron says, hi, Meta 5, Amy. Amy says, Felix. Felix?
Talking about Phoenix.
Kevin says, hello, Linda. Hi, Linda. How are you, sweetheart? What's things going on in your world? How are the kids? Amy says, the stuff they talk about on Ancient Aliens. Oh, I love that show. It's total nonsense, but I love that show. The reason I love that show is you get to see places that you don't ordinarily get to see. They show it up close. So you can watch that show with the volume down and get a lot of information that you didn't have normally. And also, you can watch it with the volume up and get some ideas about what people think about those places. But there's some strange things out there, really, that you didn't know existed. Believe me. And when you go to looking, you're like, wow, I thought that was in fairy tales. Here it is in reality. How come nobody's talking about this? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. Because believe it or not, we do live in a very secluded part of the world that has been purposely walled off from the world so that we can live in this little environment, this little bubble that we have called the narrative, where everything makes sense and there's an answer for all questions, although they don't lead anywhere, but they do have answers. That started in Cambridge in the 1800s, and they removed God and all other strange things from academia. Believe that. Believe that you live in a lie. And it's time to wake up and see the world for what it is. And there's a lot of things out there that you didn't know about.
And now we have Sirius XM.
What is that in reference to?
Your Sirius A and Sirius A and Sirius B.
No.
I was being smart, Alec.
I got it. I guess that was named after that star system, Sirius. But I think it starts with it has an E in it, but whatever. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Sirius A, B, and XM. Aaron says, Amy, you got a crown now. What you talking about? What you talking about, Aaron?
What you talking about, Willis?
Amanda says, Linda says, hi, Kevin. Amy says, ancient astronaut theorists say yes. They always say yes, or there wouldn't be a show. I think that George guy could be an alien. I think you might be right. The guy with the hair? Yes. He's definitely strange. That started from a book called Chariots of the Gods by Erich von Däniken. Back in the 70s, he wrote that book. He wrote it in the 60s. He released it in the 70s. And it was followed up by Fingerprints of the Gods. So Chariots of the Gods, then Fingerprints of the Gods. And basically he brought an attention to the fact that there are all these weird things out there that we're not talking about. Things that are just everywhere, all over the world. And nobody's talking about it. So he brought it back to our attention. And he makes some assertions in those books that are not right. But they are thought-inducing. They do get you thinking about it. So read those books for that. Just know that he's not right in the assumptions he makes, such as the Anunnaki and all of that stuff. But believe me, there's a world out there you've never even seen, but it's right in your face. Aaron says, LOL, they have met my dog. He is not submissive.
They have not met his dog.
They have
he is
not.
not.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's not either. Can't make her do anything. John says, GIMP masks. Hang on, my chat jumped.
9:33.
Thank you. John says, GIMP mask people in Britain walking around at night. 3 have been arrested. Yeah, I don't understand the GIMP thing either. That's a part of sex I never got into. I'm aware of it, but I became aware of it in my young adulthood, and I was like, what? People do what? Why would anybody want to do that? I don't know. I guess I'm just not that freaky. Amy says, it's a fetish. Linda says, have you heard of the My Little Pony people? I have. I can't remember what they are called, but that's fetish as well. Oh, yeah. Probably My Little Pony people. Kevin says, wait, you're telling me there's more than one of these people? Oh, yeah. There's a whole subculture of them. And they're in the worst parts of the internet. Yes. Amanda says,
Brawny or Bronies are the pony people, Linda.
there you go. Equestrian types. There's also the girls that like to wear stirrups and a bridle and bit and be paraded around. And a saddle.
They have camps and clubs for that stuff.
Yes. There's also a group of people that go around and pay high dollar, like $10,000 for a weekend at an event where they go and camp out, and they go out into the forest, these women, and they just scream at the top of their lungs and scream about the patriarchy. And they pay big money to sit around and drink boxed wine and scream into the wilderness. Kind of makes you wonder, this is not healthy behavior. Amy says, Mike Tyson said everybody's got a plan until they're punched in the face. He's right. That makes everything different. It brings a whole different perspective to light. You had no idea until that moment that you could easily be broken and without very much effort at all. That's the moment you realize you're not invincible, when you get punched in the face. And I think that we are surviving an epidemic of people that don't know that they're not invincible and don't know that they don't know everything. That's what the world is right now. That's why we're in the mess we're in, because we let the children at some point just start talking and we didn't shut them up. And because we had some nice people that said, well, just let them be themselves. Let them say what's on their mind. I don't believe in children should be seen and not heard. Let them talk. Well, you're to blame for what happened next, if you're one of those people. Because what happened next is they started yelling. Then they started taking over. Now they're running the show. The children without an education, without being brought up in the wisdom of the world, the children that didn't learn not to touch fire because it burns, those are the people running the show right now. And at some point, somebody's going to have to turn them over your knee and give them a good spanking like they need it. That'll fix the problem. And John says, hi, Linda Hart. And you may disagree with me. You may be one of those people that'll be like, I just can't hit my kid. I can't bring myself to beat on my child. Fine. You're the problem. You're the reason that the world is going to fall apart in flames, because you won't discipline your child, because a wild child mind is that wild. It needs to be disciplined in order to grow. Things can't grow when you let it just do whatever it wants to do. You have to restrict it to make it grow. Even plants. If you just let it run wild, it'll be all over the ground. But if you restrict it, put it on a pole, tie it down, it'll grow into a magnificent tree. Think about it. You shape your children with discipline. That's why they become good people. I've never met an interesting person that didn't have a screwed up childhood. Think about that for a minute. Think about your favorite people in the world and then find out what kind of childhood they had. Most of them had a very hard childhood. That's why they're interesting people. That's what makes interesting people. Amanda says,
Yes, definitely, Kevin. Lots of people.
lots and lots of people. Linda says, hi, John. Amy says, Trump is opening them back up, I hear. The insane asylums, yes. That's the idea. I hope he does. We need those. Severely. Mostly for teachers. Linda says, I didn't have to wait until I was 18 to get punched in the nose, right? Me either. I got it early. Amanda says, me either, Linda. And Debbie says, make shirts that make you hug yourself great again. Yes.
I had 8 brothers. I got beat up all the time. LOL.
I had glasses and an afro and was a small child. I got beat up all the time, too. Very different reason, though. And Amanda says,
I was a tomboy.
was.
I'm not nowhere near as much of a tomboy now as I used to be.
Well, you do have some more feminine traits, but when you were younger, very tomboy. Aaron says, Linda, you used to fight. You look so nice. I can't picture you fighting. Aw. Bet she'd tear your ass up. Kevin says, some people need a hug from a hammer. Very true.
LOL, Kevin.
I get that on a regular basis. Kevin says, LOL. Aaron says, hugs myself. I hug you too, Aaron. Bro hug.
Hugs for everyone.
Aw. Linda says, my eldest just left, but his 2 boys wanted to stay, so they are here for the night. Nice. Well, I know you're going to have a good time with those. Kevin says, I know Bigfoot is real because I was at my mother-in-law's in a fur coat. Or I saw my mother-in-law in a fur coat. Both of those are hilarious for different reasons.
Damn, Kevin.
Aaron says, thanks, Amanda. I need a real hug. They are taken for granted. Yes, they are. Did you know that a hug actually causes your brain to release dopamine? It actually does. It actually physically heals you, gives you something to work with. Debbie says, Kevin married the spawn of Bigfoot? That explains a lot. Yeah, she just has big toenails. She's not the whole Bigfoot. She's half-breed, so she just has big toenails. They call her Big Toenail. She come from a land down under. Amanda says, all big hugs for Aaron. Hearts and smiley faces with breasticles. A vibrating heart with smiley faces with breasticles. Nice. Linda says, Aaron, I only fought to protect others, but yeah, I broke some other people's noses when I had to.
Bones.
other people's bones when I had to. Yep, if you're gonna fight, break a bone. That's all I got to say about it. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. Truly. Like, I have no desire to be violent. But I do have a mean streak, and I do have a temper. And despite my best efforts to control that and to stamp it down and to choke the life out of it, sometimes it rears its ugly head. When it does, it's not pretty. But I reserve that for when I'm backed into a corner, which has happened maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. And 90% of the time, I come out of that corner one way or another. And that usually involves the other person with some broken bones. I don't believe in play fighting. If I have to fight you, this is going to be the last time we do it. One way or another. And you're not going to win. Because if you beat my ass, I will be outside of your house every day for the next month with a baseball bat every time you come out to check the mail. I will beat you until you get exhausted. Or you will beat me until you get exhausted and let me win. Either way, you're going down. I don't give up. Amanda says, LOL, damn Debbie. I'm sorry. Amanda says,
LOL, damn Debbie.
Aaron says, Jake, the Amy Crown from YouTube, she was number 1 at the time of the comment. Oh, I got you. I see what you're talking about now. Yeah, I don't even pay attention to that thing anymore. It's just there. Something else to clutter up my screen. Kevin says, Debbie, and it has removable teeth. What does? The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot.
The big toenail has removable teeth? Can she take her teeth out and lick her forehead? Because I can. Ladies. Amanda says,
My chat jumped.
That's 9:42.
Oh, wow, Kevin.
9:42.
Where I'm at.
Aaron, I bet Leo.
Oh, Aaron, I bet Leo gives good hugs and cuddles. And then I said, wow, Kevin.
When in doubt, always hang out with a dog. Aaron says, dang, Linda, about that life. Then you go pose like a supermodel. LOL. Dangerous. She does have some nice pictures. Debbie says, well, Kevin, there goes your son-in-law of the year award. Well, if he puts up with Bigfoot and her mama, I'd say he deserves an award. Aaron says, Leo, don't cuddle. Oh, come on now. You can grab hold of that big old dog. He might fight you, but it'll be fun. Kevin says, 14 years with that woman. Whatever bad I've done in this world has been paid for tenfold. Yep. I hear you, buddy. I feel the same way. Amy says, hugs, Kevin.
LOL, Kevin. Oh, Aaron, you poor baby.
Linda says, Aaron, my little man, Doc, the dog, gives me hugs all the time. He follows me everywhere, Heart. Tribble can stand up on her hind legs like a human. And every time I walk in the room, she stands up and puts her hands on my hips and will not leave. She stays right there pawing at me the whole time. It's kind of cute. Aaron says, me too, Kev. Me too. A lot of commiserating going on with that statement, Kev. I'm with you, buddy. Women. Can't live with them. Can't kill them.
And you can't live without them. No comment, huh?
Oh, no. I have a woman. Obviously. Amy says, I don't understand what fetishes have to do with being gay. It's a perversion of reality. So is being gay. And that's about the extent of it. What the devil does, because he cannot create, is he perverts what's already there. The devil takes what's there and turns it upside down. He makes a mockery of it. He makes a joke out of it. He makes it useless. He wants to destroy God's creation because he's jealous of it, because he can't create it himself. Evil cannot create anything. All they can do is mock and tempt and corrupt and twist. That's it. That's all they can do. So when you look at things like being gay, and yes, I'm drawing a direct correlation from that and evil, in case you want to cancel me now. I'm sorry. That's what the Bible says. I'll stand by the Bible every time. It's a lot older than anything you've ever put out, people of the world. So, all things, not just gay, but child molestation, rapists, any perversion you can think of, is taking something that God created and twisting it on its head, making it perverted, to pervert, to corrupt the thing. It all starts with an innocent act and gets corrupted. That's what a perversion or a fetish is. And now you know. Aaron says, Leo paws me away like, nope. I hear you. He's one of those dogs, huh?
Depends on the fetish, Amy. Straight people have fetishes too.
Yeah, but they're not perversions.
Right. Well, they're not usually not gross fetishes either. I mean, I've heard some pretty gross gay fetishes.
Yeah, the further you go into that world, the worse it gets. You can draw a direct correlation from that to Sodom and Gomorrah, which is where we get the word for their activities. If you do a little research and find out the kind of things they were doing in that town, you'll quickly realize that it goes into depravity and sickness and illness of all kinds, having sex with babies and things like that. There was a group of people that would take their newborn child to an iron statue of Moloch, and they'd build a fire in the statue. It was a hollow statue, and its arms were out like this. And they would burn until that statue turned red hot, like putting an iron in fire, red hot, glowing orange. And they would have drummers beating the drums so they would get real loud so they couldn't hear the screaming children. And they would place those children on the hands, and they would melt into the pit through the hands. Living children, babies. There was a group of people that did that. They got off on it. You want to know why God destroyed the world? There's worse things than that exist. Believe me. Amy says, I would make bank as a dominatrix. Well, I'll go find you some leather, honey, if you want to get started. Kevin says, LOL. Fab Daddy says, vixen. Think about that word, vixen. Vixen comes from the word vexing, which means to curse or corrupt. Amanda says,
Bummer, Aaron. That's the best part of a big dog is to cuddle with. LOL.
Debbie says, Aaron, put peanut butter on your nose and Leo will give you lots of kisses. Don't do that. You'll get other ideas. Aaron says, tell Leo that he's full of himself.
Thought it was only females that did that, Jake.
Oh, no.
LOL, Aaron. You made him that way, Aaron.
John says, can you tell me about the Aztec ruins, Jake? What do you want to know? Sure, I can. I mean, they're there. They built pyramids at the same time that the rest of the world was building pyramids. And they would have sacrifices at the top of those pyramids, human sacrifices in some cases. And according to antiquity, which it seems this way for everything they find in the desert or in the wilderness, they were temples. I don't believe that. I believe they were part of the civilization. I believe they had a function. I'd have to know specifically what you're asking about. Which Aztec ruins are you talking about? The ones in Mexico or further South America? Amanda says, needs a spanking here. I'll spank you.
I've been a very, very bad girl.
Bad baby, bad baby. Amy says, I heard if you put plastic wrap around your forehead and put peanut butter in it, the dog will lick it off while you cut their nails. I've never tried it. Well, according to that one video that was released 3 days ago, it can be done. Aaron says, I want a job with a giant staircase, which people climb and pay me to push them back down. That's pretty much what the temples were. Only when you got to the top, you lost your heart. And then it would roll back down. That's basically the Aztec temples. That's what they did there. And they did it so much that they just about killed all the people in their civilization. They actually disbanded at some point and disappeared off the face of the earth. I think that the survivors went and mingled with other people, and, you know, some went into Georgia, and as far as Georgia anyway. Some went to Texas, some went the other direction, Patagonia and places like that, and just intermingled with the people that were there. But the Mayan and the Aztecs just kind of vanished. Why? Because they were doing some serious human sacrificing in those days. And also, the Spanish conquistadors came over, and they were still there when they came by. The funny thing about Europeans, though, is when they come to lands like South America, they bring with them a thing called smallpox, because they raise cattle in large part. And these people had no immunity to smallpox. So a large portion of native people died from smallpox because they didn't know about germ theory in those days. They had no idea that they were the reason these people were getting sick and dying. They didn't know what caused it. They just knew it was happening. And that happened all the way up to the Pilgrims in our country's history. The Trail of Tears and stuff like that, further on back. Amy says people pay for good spankings. Yes, they will pay for a good spanking. And a good stepping on their balls and putting a high heel in their forehead and things like that. Oh, yeah. Peeing on them. All kinds of things people will pay for. But again, that's depravity. That's the wickedness coming out of people. Twisting God's creation. Amy says it's called BDSM. Back in the day, my husband and I knew a few things about it. Right on. Well, there's a community of people out there that like that sort of thing. 50 Shades of Grey was a book about that subject, and it swept the nation when it came out. Everybody read that book. So apparently it's on a lot of girls' minds. Why, I don't know. Amanda says, message retracted. I can't read it if you retract it. Kevin says, make electroshock therapy great again. I don't know if we need to go that far back. I don't think we should be lobotomizing people. But it wouldn't hurt to, let them sleep it off a few days in the West Wing, with the white padded rooms.
It's still called that, Amy.
BDSM, which means bondage, dominatrix, sadomasochism. Sadomasochism. Sado means to inflict. Masochism means to take in. So there's people that like to punish people, and there's like people that like to be punished. Sadists and masochists. Aaron says, Debbie, he's smart. If you put peanut butter, he looks at you like, you stupid, and picks up his bowl. Kevin says, Aaron, LOL. And Amy says, Amanda, there's a period between those two sentences.
LOL, right, Amy?
Which two sentences?
I think the BDSM and her and her husband knowing about it.
I saw it. I read it. It's called BDSM. Back in the day, my husband and I knew a few things about it. Yeah, I read the period, if that's what you're referring to. Are you saying you don't know anything about it today? Or are you just out of practice? Aaron says, Amy, maybe it's not that time of the month, so she left it out. Touche. Amy says, smiley, smiley. Debbie says, I had a very privileged childhood, and when Christina Crawford wrote Mother Dearest, I started calling my mom Mother Dearest. I did too. Mommy Dearest. She hated it.
Oh, wow, Debbie.
Aaron says, meanwhile, you're breaking bones. Got to do what you got to do, right? Pardon me. Don't blow your nose on camera, Jake. It's bad. John says, me and my brother, to settle arguments, both put boxing gloves on and beat each other until it was sorted. I agree with that assessment. I think that's the way you should handle problems if you're two young men. Because with men, there's always, and I do mean always, a low level of violence expected and anticipated. That's the thing that women don't understand, which is why feminism gets it so wrong. But among men, in the world of men, there's always the expectation of violence. That's what the alpha male is. All the other males will look to the alpha male because he's the guy that is in charge. And it's very easy to find out who that guy is. It's settled in a matter of seconds, usually non-verbally. And the reason it's settled and everybody falls in line is because they don't want to get beat into pulp. And they know that that's a possibility. That's how men run the world. Women don't have that. They're more emotional. They're more insightful. They're more, they get into groups and things like that. Men just go do the thing. We're very linear thinkers. We don't have a lot of bandwidth for emotions and backbiting and gossiping and things like that. Very direct line of thought. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's different. And it's for a reason. Men were designed to get things done, to make things happen, to build things. Women were designed to flourish a home, to bring families together, to cultivate and nurture friendships and loyalties and things like that. With a man and a woman together, their two distinct capabilities make their household uplifted, makes it better. That's why if you want to live in harmony, you need to get married at a young age and build a family. That's just how it works. There are obviously other ways of doing things, and women can function in that role just fine. However, there's always something lost. If you want to live in harmony, you do it the way God designed it. If you want to live to your own drum, beat to your, walk to your own marching, you know what I'm saying? There's different ways of doing things, and that's all right if it works for you. But if you want to be smooth and do things the way God intended it, it'll work better. And as far as young men go, they usually clash over something at some point, and it's better to let them duke it out in a friendly, competitive way with gloves and rules so they don't kill each other, but can work out their differences. I think that's healthy. And while we're talking about it, we should bring back the rite of passage, because that's a thing that young men these days don't have anymore. And I think that's a very important part, an integral part of becoming a man, is to have a rite of passage to look forward to and to work towards. And we don't do that for our young men anymore. That's why they're disappearing.
I didn't have much of a childhood. I grew up quick.
So did I. I don't think I had a childhood. I don't ever remember playing with toys or anything like that. I went straight from being a kid to going to work, which I guess is the way it has been for all eternity until recently. In the 60s, we invented this new thing called a teenager so that they could market things to teenagers, created a new class of buyers. And that's where all the movies and fashions came from, to market things to children. But before that, you were either a child or you were an adult. There was no in between. Amanda says,
Damn, Nugget.
Linda says, tomorrow, my Jake will be back with some of my Jersey boys to work on fixing the lolly column in my basement. Nice. When you said Jake, I thought you were talking about me. But that's awesome. Bring some reinforcements and get that thing fixed. You don't want your house caving in on you. Amy says, I told you not to use wire hangers.
I like wrestling with you, Jake.
As do I. As do I. Hit that like button, everybody. We got 11 so far. That's pretty good. Also, like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chats are available in the chat box or CashApp $JakeJohnsonBand. Thank you very much. Kevin says, I only got a beating when one of my brothers pissed off my father. Problem was having too many brothers, LOL. Well, I didn't have any brothers. I was raised by women primarily, which is probably why I understand them so well. There was like 5 women in my life, no men. I don't recommend that for a young man, but it worked for me. Amanda says,
Oh, Linda, that's awesome.
Aaron says, LOL, walking to get the mail. Nice.
Amy says, Drone Crawford.
Joan Crawford. Sorry, my chat jumped. I'm trying to get back to where I was at.
954.
Aaron says, walking to get the mail. Jake. Amy says, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford. Whoever was mentioned earlier. I can't remember now. Aaron says, smiley face. Amy says, her daughter was named Cindy. I see what you said there, Debbie. Cindy Crawford? I like Cindy Crawford. She's a vampire. Don't believe me? Go look at her. She looks exactly like she did in the 80s. It's unbelievable. She has aged very well. Debbie says, yes, Amy. The book was about Joan Crawford. And Debbie says, men, you can't live with them. You can't keep them chained in the yard like a dog. Well, you can. You just put them on a lawnmower and give them a beer. There you go. Bob's your uncle. Or give them a honey-do list and a beer. Or whatever they're into.
Right, Debbie? That's frowned upon for some reason. I can't figure out why.
Me either. Ain't nothing wrong with being chained in the yard. I'm chained in my yard. Linda says, thank you, Aaron. But I am far from a supermodel. LOL. But I can take good care of the few people I love, of the people that I love. Well, that's all you need to do. And that makes you a supermodel in my book. Believe that. Aaron says, they look better with no pants too, Debbie. No pants. No pants. I'm going with that. Aaron says, good job, Linda. And John says, toe sucking's gross. I have a foot phobia. You have a foot phobia? Why are you afraid of feet? I think toe sucking is just fine if you're young. I think that's a young man's game, a young girl's game. Because young girls' toes are delicious. Old women's toes, not so much. Same thing with men.
But I have delicious toes.
You do. And I chew on them regularly.
I said I have cute feet.
You do. Amy says, Judy, are you in here? I invited her. Judy, are you here? Hello, Judy. Kevin says, necrophilia is the sickest thing I've ever heard of. It's about the third sickest thing I've ever heard of, but yeah, it's up there. Believe it or not, there are worse things than that, Kevin. I wouldn't want to point you in any directions, but believe me, there are.
Yes, Kevin.
But interesting that you brought that up. We make a big deal about the N-word being used in the world. Yet nobody has a problem with that word. I ask you, which is worse? John says, the ones in Mexico. Okay, the ones in Mexico were built primarily by Mexicans. Mexicans that were mixed with Indians, Native American Indians, the ones you would think about from the Midwest. They ventured south and intermingled with people from Mexico, which, by the way, are largely in part there because of Spaniards showing up and mixing with the Mayans. A little bit of that going on. So Mexicans are kind of not from there, kind of. There are some that are, but there's different kinds of Mexicans. We tend to think of them all as Mexican, but there's different types of Mexicans. But the ones specifically in the Mexican region right below Texas, those were Native American type Mexicans called Aztecs. And they worshiped big bird gods and things like that. And their temples were built at the same time as all the other ones were being built, but with a lot less, trying to think of the words, big boulders, big rocks, a lot less of that. They did a lot more smaller construction type stuff. So they're a little bit of an enigma in the world of ancient structures, which is why you don't see them that often, because they were shoddily built. They weren't as good as the big ones down further south. And they're a little bit of a misnomer because you got Mexican ideologies and Mayans and those people, and then you got the Native American religions, and that all comes together in that part of the world. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag of religious beliefs. It's not exactly a specific type of people, right? They're kind of mixed breeds. Trying to think of another place in the world that's like that. Kind of like Italy. Italy is a mixed bag of people, but there are Italians, so they have an identity. But if you go further north, like into France, for example, you'll get more of that mixing of people where they don't quite have their own identity. Even though they have their own name, they're not really a standout as a group of people, right? Because the Italians came from Rome mostly. Rome being in Italy. But when you think of Rome, you think of the Roman soldiers and the Roman Empire and that sort of thing. Those people came from all of that. So I don't know anything specific about the Aztec ruins other than folklore and things like that. And they're kind of creepy. But mostly those people are just mixed breeds between Native Americans and Mayans. I don't know if that answered your question. But there's not a lot of detail out there about the Aztecs other than their religious beliefs and a few wars that they were involved in, things like that. But it's not a lot. It's not a very big culture. Yes, the dead body thing, Aaron. Yeah. Liking to have sex with dead people. Amanda says.
Yes, Aaron.
And Kevin says, yes, Aaron. And Amy says, that's a partner that's bored, Kevin. Just lays there. Yeah. Kevin says, LOL.
And it's cold, too.
Aaron says, Apocalypto. No, those were the Mayans, not the Aztecs. In that movie. And that's a great movie, by the way. You want to be spellbound by a movie that has no English words in it? Watch Apocalypto. It's every bit as good as you think it was going to be. Great movie. I highly recommend it. Aaron says, Amanda, we call them Pillow Princess. No thanks. I'd leave. And John says, thanks, Jake. I didn't have a whole lot of information on them, but I'm sorry about that. But if you want me to, I'll dig into it and see if I can find out anything specific to tell you. But really, they're just kind of there. A couple of 100 years they were building, and then they just kind of vanished. There's not really a whole lot to talk about. And the reason they vanished is they got overtaken. The world was in flux in those days. And the Spaniards are coming over and taking over, and the Mayans are moving north, and they just kind of dispersed and went to Texas mostly. You know, they're still around, the Aztec people. They still live in the region. They're just called Mexicans now. Amanda says.
LOL, Aaron.
Amy says, Native Americans were given blankets infected with smallpox. That's a misnomer. That may be true, but they were not given blankets because they were infected with smallpox, because they didn't know about smallpox in those days. They didn't have germ theory. They had no idea that they could transmute that disease and that that's what was killing everybody. They did give them blankets, but I don't think they knew they were infected with smallpox. Kevin says, when did they discover the cause of smallpox being in fleas? They discovered smallpox later on, after all of that went down, in the late part of the 1800s, early part of the 1900s, when they discovered germ theory. You can look that up, germ theory, and that'll give you a date on when they understood that that was a thing. Or was it the Black Plague? The Black Plague was carried by fleas. Smallpox, you can catch it just by being in the vicinity of somebody that has it. And Amy says the bubonic plague too, Kevin. Yeah, as much as 90% of the world's population died from the Spanish flu. And by the world, I mean the middle area, Britain and England and all of that, because that's where it was happening. If you go back and listen to fairy tales like Ring Around the Roses and all of that stuff, they're talking about the Black Death or the Spanish flu because they had no idea what was causing it. And also, death became so prevalent that everyone was affected by it. Everyone. Like, you knew that you might not live another day or so. So people got to where they were wishing for death. They were welcoming it. You know, it was a very dark time. That's why they call it the Dark Ages. A lot of dying going on in those days. And they thought that putting posies in your pocket would ward off the evil spirit that caused you to die. They didn't know it was a disease. And then you get those doctors with the big funky mask that looks like a beak. Well, it was full of posies. And they thought that the aroma from the posies would protect them from the plague. And by the way, I'm mixing metaphors here. The plague, the black flu, the black plague, the Spanish flu, and the other thing, bubonic plague. They were all different things, but they were all happening at the same time, basically. John says, sleeping in my dungeon later. Nice. You got a dungeon? Aaron says, Kev, the Black Plague was crack. LOL. No, that was a plague on the blacks. There's a little difference there, but yeah, it was bad. And it was on purpose. It was on purpose. Those dolphins are not innocent. They did it on purpose. I think AIDS was too, but that's just me. How not to get AIDS?
Don't be a whore.
Don't pump dudes in gas stations. Don't share needles. Grow up and marry a girl that you like and stay with her. And you're 100% not going to get AIDS.
And one that don't look like a pincushion.
Does that sound a little offensive? I'm sorry. Do the math. I have. Kevin says, when germs were discovered, they called them a little beasties. That's because they did not understand the cell. That's why it's a big misnomer why everybody follows this Darwin character, because he thought that a cell was a gelatinous thing. He had no idea what was in a cell. And his theory falls apart if he knew what was in a cell. Simple. Darwin's an idiot. Kevin says, Aaron, LOL. And Amanda says,
LOL, Aaron.
And Amy says, you read it correctly, Jake. Which part?
The BDSM.
Got it. Amy says, LOL, Aaron. And Amanda says,
we plan and think about shit. So no, we thought about whatever it was out very good before we did it.
agreed. Are you referring to what?
Something that was said earlier about women think about things.
Yeah, women are nurturers. Yeah, they definitely have lots more going on upstairs. Lots more in many different directions. You guys multitask. You guys are able to keep things in boxes. Men just straight linear thinkers. Don't think about nothing over here, nothing over there. Straight to the problem. Problem, solution, blowjob. That's it. That's what's going on upstairs. Nothing else. A man can turn off and literally think about nothing
but a blowjob.
John says, then we both shook hands, and after that, the traveler's way. Or after all, that's the traveler's way. Are you talking about when your brother and you used to beat each other up until you solved the problem? I got you. Amy says, some men are more carnal by nature. True. Yes. There are different ends of the spectrum for both sexes. And not everybody fits the same mold. I'm talking about generalizations here when I'm talking. I know I sound very matter of fact, and that can come off as a little bit offensive or creepy, but whatever. I'm talking in generalizations. Everybody doesn't fit the same mold, and there are both ends of the spectrum for both sexes. But as a general rule, if you do things the way God designed it, it works better. So Fallon says, hey guys, how are you guys? Guys and girls. How are you, Soph? Nice to see you.
Hi, Soph.
What it is here, says, went to dinner with the chiropractor, and she brought her daughter, and it was a good time. I took them to Pastafina's Italian restaurant, kind of popular place with a reservation made, and I made it before to get in. Nice. How did it go? Did you make a connection? You guys are going to get back together? Is it a good thing? Are we thinking about making babies? What's happening here? What it is? Amy says, hi, Soph.
Hi, what is it?
Aaron says, hi, Disco Soph. And Kevin says, hello, Soph. And what it is? Soph says, hey, Aaron, how are you?
Nice, what is it?
Aaron says, good luck, what it is. Aaron says, I'm all right, Soph. What it is says, hello, Amy and Amanda and Jake and Untethered Live. Nice to see you, buddy. I'm glad you went on that date, and I hope it went well. Soph says, yep. I hope you're doing okay, Aaron. And Amy says, how? I have 5 fingers. Which is interestingly enough why they did that. You know, the Native Americans, they would say, how? How means hi, but the waving of the right hand is so that you can see from a distance whether the person coming up to you has 5 fingers or not. Why is that significant? Because Nephilim, or the fallen ones, had 6 fingers. Or some of them did anyway. The ones that lived here did, and 2 rows of teeth. You want to read a detailed description of who they were, look up Lovelock Cave, and you'll see what I'm talking about. They were redheads, by the way, which means from the Irish part of the world. Or from Esau's family, Edom. Edom, which means red. Linda says, glad to hear it went well, what it is. Yes, absolutely. I can't wait to hear the details.
$10.16.
Thank you. Soph says, hey, Amy, how are you feeling today? Are you doing okay? Aaron says, I hope you're good, Soph. And Soph says, yep, I'm a bit sniffly today. Really? Maybe you should carry a napkin. Amy says, hanging in there. And John says, I have 13 brothers and sisters. Wow. That must have been one heck of a family reunion or a Thanksgiving dinner. You guys don't have Thanksgiving dinner, do you? That must have been one heck of a Christmas dinner. Where did you sleep? I had one sister and she got on my nerves. Aaron says, if you sniffly, smell the roses. Linda says, dang, John, I thought Walter and I had big families. 13 brothers and sisters. That's crazy. I bet you didn't get anything good for Christmas. Where were you on that list? Amanda says,
I have 4 blood brothers, 4 adopted brothers, no sisters. I'm the only girl and the baby.
entitled and bratty is what she say.
I was not.
John says, being in a gypsy traveler family, didn't watch TV. That's even worse. You were in each other's face all the time. Gross. What it is says, toe jam ain't bad with a little jelly. Yeah. KY jelly?
LOL, what is it?
What it is says, Super Chat is not letting my purchase happen. Oh no. That's not good. Keep trying. I need it.
You can Cash App or PayPal.
Yeah, you can do that. You can go to Cash App and go to $JakeJohnsonBand, or you can go to PayPal and go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. Amy says, I stubbed my toe and had to call a tow truck. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I can't find it. Kevin says, what it is, I use PayPal. Thank you, Kevin. Amanda says, LOL. Oh, sorry.
LOL, Amy.
Keep going.
What it is, do you have PayPal or Cash App?
Amy says they worship the sun, too. The Aztecs, yes. A lot of different religions evolved the sun because it's big and it's there. And roosters do, too, by the way. Roosters go out every day and scream at the big ball of fire in the sky like nobody's paying attention because they're the only ones that notice it. Are you seeing this? Look. Big ball of fire in the sky. Amy says Peru, Belize, and South America. Very different regions there, but very similar peoples. Aaron says, if you can, Amy, would you have jam? If you can, Amy, would you have jam? Toes? If you can it, Amy, you would have jam. Toe jam. If you can your toe, you can have toe jam. Got it. Linda says Sicilians are a mixed bag of nationalities. Yes, that's kind of what I was talking about. It's not so prevalent in Italy. That was a bad example because of Rome. But yeah, there are you got the Sicilians and the Medici and a few other families that are kind of inbred and all come together, you know, the Borgias. Anyway, it's kind of what I'm talking about. But if you go further north, it's more prevalent than the thing I was talking about because there's a lot wider swath of people that don't really belong to a culture that you could point at and say, well, there's the French people, or there's the English people, or there's the Italian people. You know, they're like in between places, and the Aztecs are one of those. What it is says Mexicans or Texicans or South of Mexicans. Mexico or Texas is what it is. Mexico or Texaco. Right on. Mexican or Texaco. Mexicus or Texaco. That's it.
If you do what it is, Cash App is $JakeJohnsonBand and PayPal is paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand.
Slash, like the guitar player. What it is says, okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to say anything. John says, I just wanted to know more about your side of the world history. Well, I'm specifically East Coast of North America. So my side of the world is somebody in my family knew somebody in somebody else's family in the woodshed, and out popped a Johnson. I'm pretty sure I'm an eighth black because my great grandfather was named Shoemaker Joe, and he's very black looking in the picture, the one picture that exists of the man. And well, he could be Puerto Rican, but I'm pretty sure it's black, which is fine by me, you know. But he was also Native American, so it might have just been a very dark-skinned Native American, but he had woolly hair and dark skin, so go figure. But from that point forward, it was Native Americans and Irish people. How they came into the mix, I don't know, because I don't have any history on that side of the family. I'm guessing they came by way of Syracuse, New York, or wherever that place is. East, what's the island? Where the Ellis Island, where they all come in? They probably came from there and migrated down south and mixed up with some Indians, and there's my family line. I don't think we go very far back. Amy says, we have run a vast gambit of topics tonight. Yes, we have. And I love nights like that. Exciting. Aaron says, which is good. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a different world. 1800s, I would guess.
I like the multiple conversation nights.
Oh, the conversations. I thought you were talking about the black guy in my family. Either way, I like it. Aaron says, some nights it's the only people I talk to all day. It helps. I know, right? It's very therapeutic to have an outlet to where you can come and just vent or talk about something interesting or talk about nothing at all or just make jokes all night or just whatever. And we all seem to be on the same wavelength. We kind of get into that however it goes, you know, and that's fine. And I think that's good. And it's a good outlet for people that have high stress lives. And it's also a good place to commune with one another and get that inner feeling of fellowshipping without actually going anywhere. I think that's a good thing too. Amanda says,
Aaron, well, we love you and are so glad that you are here.
amen. Aaron says, hugs and hearts. Amy says, scene from Monty Python. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. Rings the bell. I'm not dead. Yes, you are. I'm feeling better. Now, you'll be dead any second now. It's only a flesh wound. Linda says the doctor mask had 5 herbs and spices in it that were known to be antiviral. And we mix these essential oils to create natural disinfectant sprays for cleansing. Interesting. What are those herbs? The 5. Aaron says, Amy, I never made it through that movie. Which one?
Shawshank or...
I must have missed that chat.
Just mentioned a few minutes ago.
I don't see it.
No, I don't either. But I don't remember what movie it was either. Monty Python, maybe?
Monty Python. Gotcha. That movie is so in the cultural zeitgeist, I didn't even think about it as being a movie. I just remembered the line. John says, rats on ships from Europe. The Black Death. Right on. Fleas on the rats, on the ships, on the people. At the bottom of the sea. Amy says, Ryan White, a 13-year-old, got AIDS from a blood transfusion. This was before they knew about it and didn't screen the blood. He was at Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis. There is a tribute to him. I hear you. I'll amend my statement. 99% you won't get AIDS. Because it is possible to transmit AIDS other ways. But if you live a clean life and don't share needles and don't do depraved things, chances are you will not be in the world where that exists. And Amanda says,
Love Lock Cave.
Yep. Look that up if you want to know about the 6-fingered red-headed giants with 2 rows of teeth that plagued the Native Americans of this area for quite some time. They would eat them. They would catch buffaloes and eat them. Think about that for a minute. These are big boys, cornbread-fed boys. Patty says, at risk for HIV. Are you? No, I missed one, sorry. Patty says, my aunt wanted family members only, believing she would not be at risk for HIV. She wanted family members only. She wanted to mate with family members only? Is that what you're saying? Weird. I can understand why she would think that, though, because it was terrifying. And they were pumping that thing like nothing on the news. And Oprah Winfrey was talking about it all the time. And they were putting out numbers that were terrifying, much like they did a couple of years ago with another illness that was going around. And oddly enough, served by the same guy, Dr. Fauci, to the same results. He's responsible for that AZO tablet that killed so many people. Anyway, if you were alive at that time and remember it, it was terrifying. You didn't know if you could go outside and step on somebody's spit and catch AIDS, or use a toilet seat and catch AIDS. They were telling all kinds of things that weren't true. It was a terrifying time to be alive. Amy says the guy in The Princess Bride, the indigo hunted, had 6 fingers. I told you, The Princess Bride is full of subtext. That movie can be a subject unto of itself because everything in it is masterfully written, and it's talking about the whole world and the way that things happen religiously in the world under the guise of a movie that's kind of silly. But everything in it has a meaning. The woman in the red dress, the giant, the guy with the 6 fingers, the guy who says, I am such and such, and you killed my brother, and now I'm going to kill you, that guy, very specific meaning. The inconceivable guy, very specific meaning. You should look into that movie. It's quite fascinating. And Patty says, in the 1900s, early.
1990s.
1990s, early. Right. Amy says, exactly, Patty. It caused a panic. I think Fauci was involved in that, too. He was. He's the guy that was pushing the panic, much like he did this time around. And Patty says, of course. Princess Bride, I got it. And John says, caravans, as you know them as a trailer. Right, trailers. Campers. We call them campers. And Patty says, India bends down when they go outside towards the sun, from what I've seen. Maybe. Patty says, we have a 6-toed cat. They're polydactyl. Nice. Maybe they're fallen cats. Do they have 2 rows of teeth? Are they very big? Amy says, that's cool, Patty. And by the way, there is a difference between a birth defect and an extra digit, just so you know. If you go look online where they talk about vestigial tail and things like that, yeah, they have a growth that vaguely resembles a tail. It is not a tail. It doesn't move independently of the body. It doesn't have joints. It's just a growth. It just hangs there. Or like if a person has a extra finger, it's just a growth that's attached to the bone where the DNA decided to make more than one thing there. But these people had actual moving fingers. And there's a group of people in Mexico that, a family that still have that to this day, or at least in the time of cameras, because I've seen footage of them where they can actually use that 6th finger, like to play piano or something like that. That's a different thing. There are people born with extra digits, but they're not actual fingers. Debbie says, out popped the Johnson in the woodshed. Exactly. That's where I came from. Like the guy's name was Johnson or Washington or something. I don't know. But a Johnson came from that woodshed. And then there was me. A mutt. What it is, I'm just going to dinner on Fridays with her. She is a busy woman. Somewhere down the road, I might ask what it's going to take to get her to know, what it's going to take to get to know her better. But that's down the road. She's busy raising a 12-year-old girl. Understood? But don't drop that ball. If she's a good woman, if she's the kind of woman that interests you, she's obviously showed interest in you, so push forward a little bit. Try to make that happen. I have faith in you. And you might end up with one hell of a wife with a built-in family. And if you do it quickly, you might can add one to yourself to that list. But just remember there's a clock on that. So get busy. You know what I'm saying? Amy says, LOL, Debbie. And Amanda says,
I think that Johnson was already out 9 months before.
Right. Maybe that's where they got the name. Maybe he was hung like a tiny mule, too. That's a Johnson. You're welcome. Amy says, I'm wishing you luck and happiness, what it is, as we all are. We're rooting for you, buddy. Aaron said, Woodshed Johnson. That's me. Old Woodshed. Amanda says,
Jake is growing a shed for his Johnson.
That's not a shed, it's an awning. It'll still be outside. Patty says, I personally do not. But I know Ernest Hemingway still has them at his house in Key West. What are we talking about, Patty? I can't remember. I've heard the name Ernest Hemingway. Is that the author? Or is that a different Hemingway? I don't remember.
I think Ernest Hemingway is an author.
I think so too, but I'm trying to remember what she's talking about, and I can't. I've dropped that thread.
Maybe the blood stuff. I don't know. She'll put it in there, I'm sure.
Debbie says, Aaron, bedroom Johnson would be clear enough.
Cleaner, though.
Cleaner, though. Bedroom Johnson would be cleaner, though. Yeah, it would be, but that's not where I came from. I came from the woodshed. Somebody knew somebody and they was happy.
Best wishes, what it is.
Absolutely. What it is too much information, Amanda. And then my chat jumped.
10:47. Amy says they used to take bad children behind the woodshed for spankings.
Well, maybe whoever was, making me heard them through the wall because they were in the shed doing the thing. Aaron says, Debbie might start that. Why? But won't end clean. It might start that way, but it won't end clean. Right. That's why God invented socks or old Bon Jovi t-shirts. What? When you're lazy, you got to make do with what you got nearby. Amanda says, LOL, what it is? You read that.
LOL, what is it? I'm feeding him too much, he says. His pants are getting tight.
Yes, they are. But them cookies are good, though. What it is I do like the company of a woman, especially walking around the house naked is a beautiful sight. God knew what he was doing when he invented the woman. I believe that he did that on purpose. Those dolphins are not innocent. They're that way on purpose. Linda Davis says, combination of 5 essential oils: clove, lemon, cinnamon bark, eucalyptus, and rosemary. Kevin says, interesting, Linda. It's me's here. He says, your buddy Trump is pushing and investigating in cryptocurrency. Guess why? Probably because he wants to get a handle on how to make money off of it. That would be my guess. What's up, it's me.
LOL, what is it? It's fun, though.
It's fun being naked. Yes, it is. And it's beautiful. Because God don't make no mistakes. And a woman is the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop, top notch of all things beautiful. Believe that. Amy says, not necessarily what it is. There's a bad naked. It depends on the person. There is a bad naked. But if you let yourself go, you let yourself go. That's just all there is to it. That's why God invented the gym and the facelift and the silicone. I'm just spitballing. There is bad naked, but a lot of people age gracefully. And there's a time for everything. Sometimes that time is over, though. Patty says, Miss Linda, what is that oil recipe for? She was talking about the origins of it would be in the treatment for the Black Death, or they thought it was. Didn't really do a whole lot, but they thought it did. But we do mix oils today, and I don't know what the new oil mixture would be for. But Linda would, which is why you ask her. I understand. Kevin says, LOL, Amanda, it's in the cookies. Amanda is the cookies.
Amanda, it's the cookies.
It's the cookies. The cookies are making me fat. Yes. Yes, they are. I need to hit that gym. For sure.
Hi, it's me.
Amy says, hi, it's me. Politics is tomorrow night. It's me says, hi, Amanda. Now what it is buffalo are a big animal to eat. Yeah, imagine running along beside one and grabbing it with one hand and taking a bite out of it in the field. Imagine what kind of fella would do that. It is a big animal. But that'll give you an idea of the size of those boys at the Lovelock Cave, if you want to check it out. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but that is the legend. Amanda says, why? Amanda says,
Why it's me? Let's hear the fake news.
fake news. That's my best Trump impression. Amy says, a lot is a mix between a buffalo and a cow. A beef a lot is a mix between a buffalo and a cow. A beef a lot. You mean a beefalo? A beefalo is a mix between a buffalo and a cow. I didn't know they could mix. It's me, says open chat Amy. Pretty much. Beefalo. I got it. I figured it out. I had to think about it for a minute, but I figured it out. Amanda says.
Yes, it's me. Open chat tonight.
Linda says, Patty, it's the mix for a natural disinfectant cleaning spray. The oils. A natural disinfecting cleaning spray.
And it was the oils that was in the mask that she was talking about in previous chat.
Kevin says, hello, it's me. Amy says, it's open chat, yes, but I'm not talking about it. You're welcome to. Patty says, okay, yes, thank you. It's me, says, straight from the hole's mouth. Unless it was AI, Amanda. The hole's mouth? I didn't know holes had mouths. They're already holes. And it was probably AI. And Amanda says,
Because Apple's bringing back or coming back to America with $9 billion plus 2,000 jobs or 2,000 plus jobs.
probably. Yeah, there's a lot of money coming in right now to this country. Lot of money. And the economy is hitting record highs. It's just starting to break records like it did the first term, which it hasn't been up until this point. But there's been a lot of deficit to cover to get to this point. So it's understandable it would have taken more time. But also, a lot of building is going on, including a ballroom under the White House, in addition, first one in decades, that is being paid for by Trump himself and other donors, not taxpayer funded. And if he's investigating crypto, it's probably because a lot of people have been using crypto to get away with some shady stuff, and he's trying to put a stop to all that. Amy says, bends down in the sun, moon. Well, if you bend over, definitely moon. That would be sun in the front, moon in the back. Thank you'll come again. Can I offend anybody else? Thank you very much. Aaron says, migraine coming. Goody powders in a cold, dark room is the best medicine for that. Or Emgality. But if you don't have that, tie a belt around your head and pull it as tight as you can pull it. My voice is getting weak. It's about time to stop.
We're almost at the bottom.
Amanda says,
damn, Aaron, you need to get some Emgality. I get a shot once a month and don't have migraines anymore. Maybe 1 or 2 a year.
Emgality. Amy says, hugs, Aaron. Find a dark, cool place that's quiet. See? John says, I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thanks, everyone. It's been fantastic tonight. I learned so much. Bless you all. Much love. Heart, 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 heart. John, God bless you, my friend. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the great questions. We'll see you next time. Tomorrow night, Politics. Be there or be rectangular.
Night, Nugget.
And Linda says, good night, John Hart. And Amy says, I'm getting ready to drive home. See y'all tomorrow. Amy, I love you, sweetheart. Thank you for everything you do. God bless you, sweetheart, and drive careful. Patty says, good night, John. Amy says, good night, John. Linda says, good night, Amy. Drive safe.
Be safe, Amy. Good night.
Patty says, Hemingway has the pedactyl cats. Polydactyl cats. Interesting.
Oh, okay, Patty.
There must be a product of inbreeding, I would guess. Linda says, I made chicken fried steak tonight. It was yummy. We had baked chicken, black-eyed peas or field peas, and dirty mashed potatoes and toast. It's delicious. Chicken fried steak sounds good, too. Amanda says,
we had lemon pepper chicken, mashed taters and gravy, field peas and snaps, and toast.
And it was yummy.
Yes.
Patty says, I had fun tonight. Thank you both. Good night, all. Patty, God bless you, sweetie. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you, Patty. You're welcome, hun. Good night.
Heart exclamation point. Smiley face breasticles. Linda says, good night, Patty. It's me says, I meant to say pie hole. You mean Trump's pie hole? Well, tell me what he said and what you think about it before I leave. Linda says, Walter had the best shoulders and backside. Now you all have me thinking about that. Thank you. You're welcome. Enjoy.
Sorry, Linda, hun.
Be sure to use lubrication or you'll catch on fire. I'm sorry. I was wrong. You probably won't catch on fire. Linda says, don't worry, ladies. I'm good. Black and Decker to the rescue. I'm sorry. Amanda says,
that's right, Linda.
It's me says, gotta love chicken fried steak, Linda. It is good. I hadn't had that in a while. And Amanda says,
you skipped two of them. Oh, okay. Jake loves dirty taters. I made them out of the blue one night. He said, make them this way from now on.
They're good. Especially when you have just the potatoes and a big dollop of butter in the middle. I like that. But I like the gravy too. Don't get me wrong. All right, that's the bottom of the chat. I made it. My voice is just about to cut out on me, so time for a breathing treatment. What's dirty potatoes? Potatoes with the skin still on it. And just dice them up and then mash them, put a little mayonnaise in them. And I'm sure she does something else.
I put mayonnaise and butter in them. Just boil them like you're doing regular mashed potatoes and leave the skin on them.
And you probably use the little russet potatoes, don't you?
Yes.
I wonder what it'd be like if you used the little red potatoes. Their skin has a little bit more flavor to them.
Well, we can find out.
You know what I'm talking about? The little red potatoes?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would be any good. I know that when they boil the whole potato with the skin on it, they use the red ones. And there's a way that you can add salt and make a brine. And while you're boiling it, the salt will attract to the potato and you pull it out with a spoon and it's got crystals all over it. It's actually quite delicious. It's one of those New England type things or whatever. I saw it on internet, but it looked really good. And they just dip it in butter and eat the whole potato. I'd like to try that. Linda says, I use red skin potatoes and sour cream instead of mayo. That sounds good too. Kevin says, good night, everyone. Kevin, God bless you, my friend. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. It's me says the skin is the healthy part of the potatoes. Yes.
Just make sure you wash your potatoes real good before you cook them.
Yeah, because they when they plant the potatoes, they spray them with some stuff that's actually deadly to you, and if you eat it, it will make you sick. So make sure you wash them really good before you bake them or boil them with the skin on them. Don't just rinse them. Wash them with your hands and get all that stuff off of them.
And they're dirty too, so I mean they have actual dirt on them.
Linda says, John, I talk dirty all the time. Oh, I missed that one. John says, I thought you had to talk dirty to him, right? To the potatoes, you can talk dirty to them. I mean, it won't change the taste of the potatoes, but it's fun. You can also, make them look like somebody you know, bring some puppet show stuff, put a mask on it. Kind of fun.
Dress it up.
And Linda says, John, I talk dirty all the time, not just to the potatoes. Me too, Linda. It's a pandemic. Epidemic. It's an epidemic. An epidemic's a little pandemic. A pandemic's big, an epidemic's little. It's me says, don't tell me that, Linda. Yikes. Come on, it's me. It's fun. Join the club. Come on over to the dark side.
Let your hair down. Live a little.
Well, I attended Juilliard. I lived through the Black Plague. I've seen The Exorcist 176 times, and it keeps getting funnier and funnier every single time I see it. What do you think? You think I'm qualified?
I think you're certified.
Linda says, LOL, it's me. All right, it's time for me to go. I got to go to bed. Linda says, good night, all. Heart, 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 heart. Good night, everybody. Good night, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you so much for the great conversation tonight. I enjoyed it immensely. Hope you did too. Hope you found something good to latch on to. Come back to see us tomorrow night for some politics. It's going to be wild and crazy up in here. It's me says bye. I love you too. It's me. See you next time. Have a great night. God bless you all.
Good night, Untethered Live.
Thanks for watching.